coming into place here in a few short weeks. The timing of this webinar is just right to ensure you're fully prepared come June 1st. My name is Mike Schratz, GM and Senior VP for Rollies Acmeda here in the US. I'm joined today by my colleague, Anthony Russo, Senior Product Manager here at Rollies Acmeda as well. Today we have a full agenda covering topics including our industry association, the WCMA, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, changes to new regulations, products leaving the market, products staying, new solutions, Rollies Acmeda specific child safe products, and we'll finish off with a Q&A as well. The Rollies Acmeda has been innovators of internal and external window covering products for more than 40 years. At Rollies, we supply thousands of companies around the world with technical product solutions. We have a full staff of engineers, designers, and technicians working to design innovative products for our markets. The WCMA is our industry association representing the interests of the window coverings market and tasked with developing safety standards. Rollies has been involved with the WCMA for multiple decades. The WCMA has been partnering with the Consumer Product Safety Commission, CPSC, for many years, focused on improving the safety of products sold into the markets. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is a U.S. federal agency tasked with protecting the public from risk of injury or death due to consumer products. They have a successful track record of working with various industries, including the Window Covering Association, to reduce risk and ultimately have seen a decline in injuries and deaths as a result. At this time, I'll turn it over to Anthony to talk a little bit about the standards that govern our industry and what's changing.
Hey, everybody. I'm just going to cover the standards primarily. CPSC did have a proposed standard. So about a year ago, we were unsure of whether the CPSC rule would come into effect or the WCMA one. The courts ruled in September of 2023 that the CPSC rule would be vacated, and since then the WCMA rule that was proposed at the time is going to be implemented on June 1st, so in a few weeks from now. So we'll go over the changes that are involved in WCMA, but WCMA and CPSC have been working together, just so you know, to ensure safety now and going forward in the industry. So but the WCMA rule is going to be what is implemented on June 1st. So we're going to focus on that. We can also help with the Health Canada standards as well, but that's not going to be the focus of today's. But that's already in place. Industry. So just a brief history of how we got here and kind of what's coming up. The 2018 standard did eliminate accessible operating cords from all stock windows, window coverings. So that was primarily just a stock where we're going to, it impacted the custom windows less due to technological limitations, but there were some impacts there on the 2018 standard when that came in to custom window coverings. The 2022 standard, which is being implemented in June 1st, addresses primarily custom window coverings. So the big changes are there. So this is not made, not made to order or not stock. This is mainly custom. There's a wide variety of hardware and fabrics. And it's typically something, a custom window covering is just something that's typically measured and installed by professionals. So there's huge changes since 2018, but the 2022 standard really takes it a step beyond. We eliminate free hanging cords such as cord locks and tilt cords. Those are all no longer allowed per the 2022 standard. Continuous loop systems for horizontal slatted products also being eliminated. And we had we'll talk a lot about the tension devices today, but there's a lot of requirements that were put into place for the tension devices. We'll talk about that. We eliminated corded operated for retractable cord systems. So anything less than 36 inches is okay, but anything more than 36 inches on a retractable cord is no longer acceptable. There was updates to the warning labels, which we'll talk about, and there's also for remote control battery accessibility, which is Reese's Law, which we'll talk about as well. So go into more detail as we go along here. But essentially, the crux of it is the use of cords and chains will be limited with this new standard. So anything free hanging, as you can see there on the left, or anything that's, any accessible cord that can be pulled out and made into a hazardous loop is essentially no longer acceptable. So you can go cordless, or you can have a corded or chain product as long as it has a proper tension device or protection, not allowing for a hazardous loop. So cord locks, as we mentioned, are going away completely June 1st. Tilt cords and horizontal blinds as well, because they do pose a risk to children, and also non-compliant tension devices. So it's tension devices that can't keep the cord under tension. So there are a few out there that are okay, and that are acceptable per the 2022 standard. Essentially, cords have to be short. They have to be less than 8 inches or 16 inches in diameter, around there. And they can be inaccessible. So cords that run, through a product, think of a cellular shade, something like that, or if they're within 12 inches of the headrail and can't be touched with an accessibility probe, then those are acceptable. Untensioned loops that are less than 16 inches in circumference are okay. Anything more is not acceptable. And then we talked about those retractable cords. There are other restrictions. It's not that it just has to be under 36 inches. It also has to be able to retract with additional weight on it. So, and warning labels are a big thing as well. So those all have to be, in accordance to the 2022 standard. So, or you could have a compliant tension device. And there's also a lot of requirements for testing that the products have to go through. So it's like cycle testing and UV testing like that. Products that do require safety labels are mainly retractable cords with cords up to 36 inches. So, and also clutch-based systems that do use a chain or a cord and have a compliant tension device must also be accompanied with the proper labels or tags. Now, just talking about the tension device requirements, this is a big thing because a lot of people can, you can just have minimal impact to your systems or the products of chains or corded products, as long as you have a proper tension device. It has to be attached to the chain and the headrail or clutch by the manufacturer. So it has to be factory installed. It has to get to the user or where it's going to be installed with it all intact and on the chain. It has to prevent operation if not properly installed. So if they install it up a few inches or where there would be slack, where it become a danger, it's not acceptable. So the device itself has to force people to install it properly. Also, it has to be broken to be removed or be done with a successive process, a multiple step process, or has to be a one-way almost insertion where it has to be broken to be removed. It has to pass a bunch of testing, UV testing, impact testing, durability testing, and the tension device has to be supplied with wood fasteners, and also instructions on how to install it into other substrates. Now, this is just an example of the labels that are in there. There is a merchandising label as well, but the product labels are shown there and the product tags are on the right. They do have longer labels for, that you can have on your hem bar if you don't have room for the larger labels. So there's a couple options there, but that's essentially what is needed on the product. There's some exceptions, and here's some clarifications as well. Top down, bottom up ones are acceptable. Any horizontal blinds, regardless of material or size of slats, operated by a continuous loop is no longer acceptable. And there's no exceptions for commercial or non-residential installations. We keep hearing that coming up. Does this apply to commercial? There's no children there, but there could be at one point, or one day down the road. So WCMA makes no distinctions between commercial or residential. They all have to apply. All right. So WCMA, as it's done over the history of time, will continue to iterate the standard and make it safer and safer for children and just in general. So it will be reopened again for further improvements. So we're not sitting on our laurels. We're definitely going to keep making improvements, but those processes can take up to several years to happen, right? You think our last standard approval was 2018, and now this one is a 22 standard, and it's taking place. It's being implemented in 2024. So this stuff takes time, but we definitely are cognizant of the changes that are needed. So we're going to keep moving forward and make that happen. There's a lot of things to update the standard properly, make sure we get proper input, proper comments, and go through the whole ANSI process to get it approved and implemented. CPSC will be enforcing the ANSI WCMA standards through fines and recalls. So there is impact if people do not comply. So, all right. I'm going to turn it back over to Mike to talk about some products and Reese's Law as well.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. We also wanted to call to light another important change here as it relates to coin cell batteries common to remotes for motorized shades. It's the same type of coin cell battery that you have in watches or in kids' toys. There's a new standard which will address the concern of children gaining access to the batteries through the door mechanism in these products. The new standard addresses both the mechanical design needed to access the battery cell and product warning labels for the products as well. So this is happening right concurrently, effectively, with the WCMA standard. So with the new standards coming into play, there are new innovative products and also some older products getting a second life. On the manual side, some other compliant products for roller shades would include pull stick operation, chain shields, and crank solutions, which are all viable for manual shades. There's also some new spring systems available, including new balance spring type systems that allow a user to adjust the shade to specific positions, or others that are more defined stops and semi-automated for rising purposes. Motorized window coverings are a clear alternative for child safety though price points have limited the consumer base in some cases and the willingness to pay. There's now some more cost-effective solutions for consumers than there ever have been previously. Rollies Agmita has a full range of child-safe solutions we're excited to tell you about. We'll start with our chain hold. With over 4 million units sold, our chain hold is fully compliant to the new standard and has been tested and verified by Intertech, which is an accredited third-party lab. We also have new sample kits available for those that may need to showcase the various options available, whether it's on the retail side or on the fabrication side. We also have a chain shield available. This solution offers a compliant solution that requires just a one-hand operation and is both compliant in the US and Canada. What consumers like about this solution is that there's no invasive drilling needed, and the chain can hang free with the use of this chain shield. There are some very specific requirements, be it around the amount of diameter for the chain to be hanging from the bottom. And we do have simple tools and jigs to allow this and compliance to happen uniformly in the production process in the manufacturing facilities. Our Easy Spring systems come with multiple control options. This Motorized system is great for hard to reach shades and has both a hand controlled option and a wand controlled option available. Minimum width at 18 inches and max width 120 allow for great flexibility and do give quite a few solutions to consumers that like this style of control feature. We also launched our Easy Spring Air balanced spring system, which allows the user to place the shade in the desired position. This solution does solve a couple of problems from typical balanced spring systems on the market. One being there's a nice locking device for holding tension during shipping. You could also adjust the tension post-installation. These systems do require fine tuning, and it's very simple to adjust the tension right on the bracket after the shade is installed. And lastly, there is an option for top limits where some of these solutions on the market don't have that available. Right. Here's a quick demo just to show the two different types of spring systems that we have available. The first being the Easy Spring Ultra with the Auto Rise feature. And the second being the balanced spring system. As mentioned earlier, we've also launched new cost-effective motor solutions to the market. The first we have here on the left is our magnetic wand solution. Wand motors are not new in general, but the magnetic wand allows you to either keep the wand in the window when the shade is not being operated, or to take it down and put it away so it's out of the reach of children. The same wand can be used on multiple motors as well, or multiple shades, as the limits and all the information relevant for that specific shade is stored in the motor and not in the wand itself. We also launched a one-way remote motor, meaning that there's no hub and app communication. It's just a very simple remote control operated with a motor and has a simple control solution for that. Again, the thought here is to have more cost-effective solutions for the market for those consumers that are faced with a decision on which child-safe solution that they would like to work with. At this time, I'll pass it back to Anthony Russo to share our newest child safety innovation, and we'll close out with FAQs and a few questions from the group. Over to you, Anthony.
Thanks, Mike. I do want to talk about in development now, and we're in tooling for this, is our Tension Device Plus, which is coming out probably the beginning of Q4. And it's also going to be WCMA 2022 compliant. We decided to take our chain hold, which you saw, and make a few advancements to it. You can see, I'm going to play a video as I talk over it. But we do have a patent pending on this, and it's going to be a little bit larger of a device. So it's going to be up around 3.5 inches for the chains and 4.5 inches for the cords. It has a bigger throw, which is something that we looked into heavily with chain stretch and cord stretch over time. We just wanted to make sure that, no matter what the application and the load, that the new device can sustain some chain stretch. You can see here that it has a locking feature on the back, right? So if you lose tension because of chain stretch or poor installation, it will lock in place and it will not allow you to operate the shade at all until you remove the device, reset it, and locate it in the proper position and install it properly. So it's a little more fail-safe than the existing one, but yeah, we're pretty excited for this one. And the longer spring travel also gives a larger install, a larger margin for error for install. Our current chain hold doesn't lock cords like this one is going to. It'll be a separate SKU, but we'll have a solution for cords as well as chains with this when this product comes out. So we have a couple bracket options, which I'll show you. and are being shown here on the screen as well. We wanted something a little more robust for commercial applications, because we've heard in people bump into the current mounts that we have. So this one will be a little bit better for that. So this one, we also improved it. We're able to use 1/4-inch hex head screws, which is a big benefit. A lot of installers prefer those now, so we wanted to move that. We'll have it in a variety of colors, white and black for sure, and clear as well. We're looking into doing metallized colors to go out with our new brackets that are coming out, and we may do other additional colors. This one, like our current chain hole, does work with our ball stops and connectors as well. So yeah, we're pretty excited for this one coming out later this year. That covers that. Just to show you really quickly, the mounts that we do have coming out for it was like a standard wall mount. Then we have that commercial mount, which is a little more robust, and it can also be used on floor mount if people want it. And then we do have an adhesive backing mount coming out. We tested a bunch of adhesives, and we found one that we feel that will sustain the force that's required per WCMA. But this will be a mount this will be a nice option for commercial applications where they don't want to put holes in mullions or the walls or something like that. So we do have that coming out as well. And those will all launch at the same time towards the end of the year. So that covers our products. We did want to go over, we do hear a lot of questions that come in about WCMA, and hopefully we will be able to answer a few of your questions. But if we don't by the end of this, frequently asked questions, please put questions in the Q&A or in the chat below, and we will get to them. One thing we hear a lot is, does a new standard after June 1st count for repairs and replacements? So if it's a repair, if you're replacing a component, a clutch or a bracket or something like that, and just a piece of the system, it does not have to be brought up to compliance. But if you're replacing the whole shade, then it does need to be brought up to compliance. So there is a difference there, and it's important to know that. So repairs are okay, acceptable. You don't have to bring them up to compliance. Replacements, you do. The standard, the June 1st date is reference to when the systems or the shades are manufactured. So if it's manufactured prior to June 1st, it does not have to be in compliance, but we obviously encourage that it is. But anything manufactured after June 1st does have to be brought into compliance. Chain connectors. There's a section in the tension device section 6.3 of the WCMA standard. They refer to it has to be installed by permanent means, and they're referring to the tension device. But the interpretation we're taking on that, and we encourage the industry to do the same, I know a lot of people are doing the same, is it also accounts for the chain, right? If you have a standard chain connector, can easily just be disconnected, and then the tension device could be pulled off. So where the industry is going to these chain connectors that are one way or locking. We know some people are just putting dabs of Loctite or glue on them to make sure they can't come open or get broken. But there's also new devices coming out, which the chain connectors you can crimp them on or something like that to make them compatible or compliant into the WCMA standard. So that's something that's coming in, and we'll see more and more innovation in that realm as well. We talked about commercial versus residential. They both must comply. Another thing we keep hearing is the standard is, compliance is voluntary, but it's not. It's the standards process that the WCMA goes through is voluntary. It's a standard that we developed as an industry, and we want to regulate ourselves so the CPSC doesn't have to come in and do that for us, right? So the process of coming up with the standard is voluntary, but compliance is mandatory. And that will be enforced by the CPSC. So if the CPSC knows that there's an issue or hears that there's an issue or finds out, they will enforce it with fines and recalls. And we talked about before, top down, bottom up, but just want to reiterate that those are acceptable per the WCMA standard. So I think that's covers all the questions that we've been hearing quite often. If there's anything else or any other questions, like we said, please put them in the chat and we'll go through. I think we have some time left over now. So we do have 15 minutes left over. So we'll look through some of the chat questions. If it's something we can answer now, we will. If not, we will definitely get back to you. So please, or if we run out of time, we'll definitely get back to you as well on those things. So.
Perfect. Yeah, Anthony, I think just to start too, if we run out of time here, if anyone does have questions that we're not able to answer, you could send us an email right on the contact us form of our website, and we'll make sure that we get those answered. The first set of questions that came up, I think there's a lot of people asking if this presentation will be made available for anyone that has signed up and those obviously that participated. The webinar will receive a recording of the webinar, which will have the videos that we showed and everything that we're speaking about here as well. There is also an article coming out in the next version of Window Fashion Vision magazine that Anya mentioned, specifically related to this topic as well. Some other questions that I saw pop up. What companies or representatives are involved with the WCMA, and is the WCMA open for manufacturing and fabrication companies to participate in decision making? So firstly, yes, companies like Hunter Douglas, Springs, and Rollies, Acme have been involved with the WCMA for a very long time. I would recommend anyone interested in understanding how they can further participate, reach out to the WCMA directly on that topic. And they have the WCMA website with the contact us form there as well. Next question over to you, Anthony. Can we continue to manufacture vertical blinds with cord as long as we provide a tension device?
Yes, as long as it's a compliant tension device. I like we said, Rollies Acme currently does not have a tension device that's compliant for cords, and I honestly don't know of one out there right now. So if you can find one that's compliant for cords, then yes, you can definitely keep selling with cords.
Excellent. Another question over to you, Anthony. Shades that are no longer compliant, can we continue to repair them?
Yes, you can repair them. As I said, repairs are okay. If you're replacing a component or a piece of it, you can continue to do that. So like if the clutch is, unacceptable or the chain breaks or something, you could put a new chain or a new clutch on there and don't have to bring it into compliance. But if you're replacing the whole shade, like a replacement, then you do have to bring it into compliance.
Yep. Do the labels need to be permanently attached?
Yes, there's requirements for the labels to be acceptable in the WCMA standard, so they do have to be permanently attached. So it has to be, when we say permanently attached, like the tension device or the labels, it has to be a tool to get it off, or like a sequential process, so like two-step process to do it.
And there's a question about what about our clients? Do we encourage them to install before June 1st?
It's just a manufacturing date, right? So June 1st is really the manufacturing date. As long as you manufacture before June 1st, they could install in July or later.
And will online retailers also be compliant to the new standards?
Yes, everybody needs to for custom window coverings.
Yep. Okay. Are there new modifications for the Easy Spring products relevant to workroom fabricated fabric Roman shades?
We do our Easy Spring product. We're gonna make that compliant with Roman, or we're gonna put out materials. You can use our Easy Spring Ultra product on Roman shades, but we don't have the documentation and the guidance yet to do that. So we're going to bring that in there. In the interim, we have another system called Easy Spring Plus that is good for roller Romans. And that's also a locking spring system. So our Easy Spring Plus system is good for roller Romans. Coming in the future will be our Easy Spring Ultra for roller Romans.
And just, I think piggybacking off that question, is there anything changing with Roman shades and cords on the back or anything with that in the future?
There's no real change for Roman shades with that. No. Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, those are still okay and compliant as long as same.
And there's a question about sharing more on the top down, bottom up. Do those need to be cordless or motorized? The corded design that lifts the bottom rail would be able to create a hazardous loop?
No, that's we as per the standard, those are acceptable because the way the cords are and they're usually up higher, and it's hard to create a loop with that. There's a certain force that needs to be pulled, and that those typically comply. So top down, bottom ups, and there's been no accidents or anything with top down, bottom up. So those are acceptable per the WCMA 2022 standard.
There's a question, can we sell blinds as is without cords and leave the cord safety mechanism decision in the hands of the customer to install themselves? And the sub-question is, we often sell blinds to other interior designers based on the new standards.
They have to be sent to the customer or the installer with the device on there. So it's not, it's not a decision for them to make whether they put it on or not. It must be sent out with the, with the device on there and the labels on there.
There's another question. If the tension on the hold down stretches and locks up, is the customer able to reset, or is that going to be our responsibility?
If I think I don't understand that one.
Yeah, so on the new tension device plus that you showed, yeah, where when if the hold down does stretch and it locks up, can it be reset by the consumer?
It has to be our device has to be pulled off the wall, so you have to undo the 2 screws, and then you have to push the button on the back and then pull it down and then remount it to a lower location where it will bottom out or lock out. So, I mean, it can be done by someone that knows how to do it, but yeah, we try to make it fail safe there.
Yep. Another question, why are commercial facilities in Canada exempt from these standards and the US not?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can answer that one. I'm not sure why they are in Canada and why they're not here. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it is different though, right? And ultimately, there's some gray area in terms of what is commercial and not commercial up in Canada, even when there's still children present. In the US here, it's black and white, right? There's no correlation or difference for the requirements for commercial and residential. But why, as to why that is, I don't think we're able to answer that one.
I think in Canada, I do know that they don't allow tension devices, so maybe that's part of the reason, and they decided to allow that in Canada and for commercial applications. But I'm not really sure. We have a couple of people we can call and try to get a better answer to
that. There's a question: is using shroud to cover the cord in compliance?
Yeah, it is. Like we had our chain shield, which I can probably pull up real quick. But yeah, so like a shroud like this does, as long as you don't expose more than a 16-inch circumference there at any one location. So you can use a shroud. It does meet compliance because it's not creating a hazardous loop. But again, this needs to be permanently fixed onto the device. Ours is a little different than most. Like most shrouds would just fall to the bottom, but we have a device in there, which you can see this wheel that allows it to hang there. And with set cord lengths, we're able to kind of regulate by selling fixed length shrouds that you wouldn't get more than 8 inches at the bottom. So, 8 inches or 16-inch circumference.
All right. Let's see. So there's a question on, is it for the type of cords, is it use only beaded continuous cord loops or clutch systems? Or can you still, yeah, does it have to be beaded continuous cord loops or clutches used with the new standard?
Beaded cord. It doesn't have to be beaded. It just yeah, it just has to be either a continuous loop or have a connector that is a one-way connector that locks in place. So yeah, you can use cords or chains or beaded loops or anything as long as it's fixed by permanent means.
There's a question about for repair work, how long will the components needed for repairs be available?
You mean like anything where I mean we typically, I'll say, like anything we're discontinuing, we do make available for we try to make available for 3 years after. But I don't know what other companies do.
And on those, in the same vein, can we repair vertical blinds that are cord and chain and shades that need to be recorded? So
Yeah,
effectively, can you repair vertical blinds the same way as
yeah.
shades?
Again, yeah, like a repair is okay. It is acceptable to do something like that.
Yep. In terms of manufacturing for the holder and the cover on the chain hold, does cover have to be factory installed? Aside from screws and instructions for installs, or anything else that must be provided?
No, it just has to, like, ours is a two-piece. Our chain hold is a two-piece device. And oops, sorry. Yeah, ours comes as a two-piece device, and you have to snap them together on the chain and ship it out like that. Yeah, I just had a customer from us also, like, they also don't want the shade to be able to be operated when it's received, and so they actually made them bunch up the chain and zip tie it together, just so you couldn't operate the chain at all. So that's another, it depends on the interpretation by, Intertech or BV on whether that's compliant. So.
Got it. There's also a question about the SS38 system. Can we use the SS38 system now with a custom bead chain length? And then after 6-1?
Custom bead chain line. I'm not sure I understand that one.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is there a certain place position safety labels must be attached to? Can they be on the headrail so not visually, I guess, objectionable?
I'm not. I think they have to be visible. So I typically see them on the head rail or on the hem bar, or or up on the yeah. I mean that's typically where we see them, but I could look into the standard and see if there's any indication.
What if a customer removes the chain guard or tension device after the shade got installed?
I don't know, unfortunately, there's not much control we have over that, or anyone has over that. That's their obligation to do it if they want, but yeah, as long as it's shipped and it's shipped, and if we install it or someone if the company that does ship it installs it, puts it on there, then it's okay. We can, yeah. The only thing the WCMA calls for is that it must be shipped like that. It doesn't say anything about what the end user does with the product afterwards.
Excellent. There's a question on where can they go to find out what labels are needed?
We do have a link on our website to what the labels that we offer. Also in the WCMA standard, it has the full list of labels. So one of the two places would be good. If you need information, definitely contact us. We can get you the information you need there on that. And
yeah, there's multiple questions around accessing videos of the different mechanisms as well. Certainly encourage everyone to go have a look at our website, and the recordings from this presentation, as mentioned, we'll have the videos from the different mechanisms that we showed today. By the way, there's been lots of great questions. I don't know that we'll get to all of them in the next 3 minutes. As mentioned earlier, anyone that we didn't get to answering the questions, if you would like to, please do reach out to us right on the Contact Us page of our website. But a couple more minutes to cover a couple more.
Yeah, I do want to mention that there is, like you can get the standard as well online, the ANSI WCMA standard. I think it's around $30, but it's, definitely worth having if you're manufacturing shades and just to understand the standards. But, definitely let us know. We can kind of help walk you through any of that as well.
Let's see. Yeah, there's a question about, do customers or consumers need to have to retrofit their existing old shades?
No, anything, you mean anything that's installed? Is that?
Yeah, correct. Effectively, anything that's installed. Is there any push for consumers to have to update their shades that are installed before June 1st?
There's no indication of that or anything needed for
that. Do the new regulations apply to cord-drawn traversing rods for drapery?
I believe so. Yeah, there's nothing indicating that they don't. Yeah. Yeah, I know those can be pretty large. Like the cord goes, I think, horizontally than vertically, right? It could be, those can be pretty large. So, but yeah, if it's creating a hazardous loop or can create a hazardous loop, it definitely falls under there.
Yep. And there's a question in here. Will the Q&A session here be where we can go back and review the answers? And yes, this session's recorded, so you'd have access to the responses that we've had. I think we've had over 100 questions come in, so apologies for us to not get to every one of them. Let's see, just a minute left. There are a few questions specifically around ADA compliance. And will the new standard, how does the newest standard affect ADA standard for window treatments? Not sure if Anthony, you're aware of that.
No, there's no real distinction with ADA requirements in there, so nothing really there.
All right, excellent. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today, and we are right at the 45-minute mark. So just want to say thank you for everyone participating, for all the great questions, and certainly look forward to hearing from some of you that still have some unanswered questions that we couldn't get to during the sessions today. Thank you very much, and looking forward to post June 1 and a new world for window covering. So thank you all very much for your interest, and we'll be talking with you all soon. Thank you very much.